Okay, let's talk about how society kills our art, our creativity, the creative mind, the intuitive mind. Yeah, something I wrote a few years ago now. I'll read it to you, and I will make comments while I read regarding this phenomenon, which, by the way, it's not new. It is thousands of years old, but I'll talk about it more a little later. So this is what I wrote. As kids, we all have that intuitive connection to a deeper mythological dimension, the ground of the cosmic soul. But when we start school, our left side of the brain, the rational and linear, is exclusively emphasized, and our right, the side of the heart or soul, the intuitive creative, gets left behind. I write about this in my book. Let me have a look. Where We Dream. This, by the way, is one of the paintings that I did. One of the first paintings I did when I recovered my art again. You know, when you're a kid, you are very creative. If you look at small kids, look at the way they play. One of the first things that they're gonna do is play with colorful things. They arrange things in a different way, in a specific way, in a way that is satisfying to them. And then they might graduate to crayons or color pencils. You know, they just start making marks on paper. That's the most natural human response to being human, is to be creative, is to create something that comes out of you spontaneously. That's the reason. One of the reasons that small kids like to play with their feces, because it comes from within them. It is meaningful to them. It's something that comes from within you. It needs to be expressed. You know, I remember as a kid, I spent quite a lot of time in hospitals, in and out, and there were really small kids in there, and a lot of them always liked playing, because there was nothing else for them, because they were stuck in a cot. There was nothing else for them to play with, so they played with their feces. They drew things in their feces, you know? So this is a fundamental need of the soul. Soul speaks in art. Society kills art. It kills it because it emphasizes only the left side of the brain, the rational. I remember when I went to school, I still remember my very first day. It was a disaster, because from the moment you sit at the bench with all the other students, you know, diligently sitting at the bench, front faced to the blackboard, there are instructions written on the blackboard which you have to remember. And then it just gets worse from there, because then, you know, the instructions are turning into formulas, into quotes, into dates, into remembering names of people. Now, if you don't remember this exactly as you were told to remember this, you are a failure. You don't pass the tests, you see? And then the teachers are going to tell you, like they were telling me, you're not going to you're not going to make anything out of yourself. You're never going to get a job. You're never going to get into an institution, into further study. You're never going to get a job. You'll never probably have a family. You'll never, you'll be a failure. You're good enough to simply beg on the street for money. And yet, you know, the right side of the brain, the creative side of the brain, the art part is as old as humanity. That's the original religion of humanity. If you look at the earliest signs of worship, of religion, if you like, of mythology, of what we were trying to put into, even before words, into signs and symbols, was art. On the caves, for instance, the first arrangement, I think before we started actually drawing on caves, we were making arrangements with bones and skulls and things in the center of a cave. You see? And then we graduated into drawing. You know, you got the Paleolithic caves, 15, 20, 30,000 year old paintings, and even figurines that are 40,000 years old. And we're making figurines of the deity, of this phenomenon, this spiritual thing that is speaking through us. All religion is art. Mythology is art. Culture, the beginning of culture, it comes in, the beginning of ideas of culture, of coming together and building a society. It all came through art first, through visions, through dreams and visions, intuitive, and then it was put into symbols. You see? But then now our culture, what's happened is that they killed the whole thing. That there's no expression for the soul anywhere. If you look at the work of the alchemists, for instance, all their work is in symbols and in drawings. It's all art. And then they put things into words to explain what these things mean. Or rather, not so much to explain, but, they had their own code of talking because of writing, because of Inquisition and so on. They could have been, jailed or killed for their beliefs that went against the church. So they had their own way of coding the message. But if you read through the message, if you read Jung, and he's done a marvelous job on alchemy, explaining alchemy. If you read it through there, there's first is the drawing, what the alchemist experienced in his visions or dreams or intuitively, and then there is written words or explain what that means, what he wants to portray. Poetry is exactly the same. It's just putting into words the spontaneous creative process that is talking through you. In other words, your inner voice that is talking through you. That's what poetry is. And if it rhymes, it flows better. That's all it is. And when it flows, it means it's intuitive. Yeah? Okay, I'll continue with what I wrote because it's a little longer. So, yes, this continues into our adult life as we build our individual ego. When we learn to think for ourselves, learn our reflective powers and grow into individuals. Yeah. Getting qualifications to get that right job and then start a family and so on. In this way, we continue with these TV values of society's sanity, and something changes in old age, until something changes in old age. But you know what? A lot of times nothing changes in old age. It's not going to change just magically because you're getting older. You actually need to make the effort. So it changes. You got to get involved intuitively in some kind of creative process. It doesn't mean that you have to write like Campbell wrote dozens of books, or Jung wrote, millions of words, or the alchemists draw the symbols because they knew what they were meaning, already knew what the symbols were meaning. Just get involved in some kind of process. I remember some kind of creative process. I remember once I was stuck and things didn't flow. There was no creativity, no inspiration, and there I was, lying on the couch and thinking, not thinking but contemplating. Something is wrong. It's not flowing as it used to be for me. And then in that space between sleeping and waking, yeah. When you get a lot of instructions, but not many people actually remember those instructions, but that's where you get the instructions. A voice said, the inner voice said, focus on your intuition, on your angel, and get involved. And that's it. The moment I did that, I opened up a book that I had with symbols, or actually I might have actually still be working with Wikipedia, with the symbols, with mythology on my laptop, started reading in between the lines. I would copy and paste the whole article. For instance, I would be working on Access Mundi. If you have worked on that symbol before, don't worry about it. Just do it again. But this time, don't try not to think that that you already know the answer, what it is. Do it again, anew, and something new will come up. Every time you look at these things, something new is going to come through. All you're doing is you're using the symbol, like mythological symbols like Axis Mundi, as a signpost that is leading you back into your center, the creative center, the intuitive center within you, because that's what it is. That's what Axis Mundi actually means. A center, the center of the world, the axis of the center of the world. Yeah. So it leads you back, and then you follow one. In Wikipedia internet is wonderful because you can click on the link and then just follow, like you're following this invisible trace back to its source. You follow one symbol, then you go to another symbol, then you go to another symbol, and it just flows and intuitively just flows. You don't need to run around and find books like in the old days and look into the index. That was the old way of doing it. You had a symbol that you want to work with, you went into the book and you found the reference to that symbol, and then you went and looked it up in the page, and then that maybe while reading about this symbol you had a reference to another symbol, then you found that symbol, and went on and went on. And then I would usually do that. I would do it all day initially, and then in the evenings. Why in the evenings? Because before you go to bed, and then you have dreams, and you have those wonderful archetypal dreams. You have reborn your intuition. The guide comes, the wall dissolves into fog, and you're invited into a cave or up the mountain or some other place that you're going to the center. And all of this is creative process. All of this is art. All religions are started with art. If you look at Christianity, the earliest evidence of Christianity is symbols, artistic symbols. You had the cross, you had the fish, you had the cup, you had a triangle. All these things are always start with art, but society kills our creative process because it only emphasizes the left side of the brain, the rational. At school, like I said, all you had to do is remember well. The person that was capable of remembering what they were told and then regurgitate that at the test exactly as they were told was the best person in the class. They were the example for everyone to follow. There was no individual thought involved or creative thought. You were not allowed to have that. You only had to remember the formulas, the quotes, the dates. You see? And that is progress. That was fine when we were going into what we're looking for is engineering jobs, or for the scientific quarter, when the scientific quarter was evolving in Western society. When the rational mind was evolving. But now that's gone too far. It's overtaken the creative. It's killed the intuitive mind. Yeah, the creative mind. Okay, so I'll continue a little more what I've written. Okay, so this is about the old. I've finished with the old people. Like I said, a lot of times nothing happens in old age. I know people that nothing happens. Some do. They might find the creativity in the garden or in cooking or some kind of, knitting, painting, drawing, dancing. They might find that, but most don't. They just sit, stare at TV, and that's as far as their life goes. All right, so this I'll continue. This change happens only to some, perhaps the best of some, right? About the older people who have retired from their role in culture, find more time to do nothing, and thus let the inner life speak itself once more in dreams, visions, and intuition, which leads to being more creative. Okay, perhaps having their own garden or cooking, or some might recover the childhood talents of writing or painting and cement their intuitive heart connection to the mystery, the most inward center that reconnects to the soul, the all inner soul, the interconnecting web of life within and without. Yeah, so the whole idea, let me have a good time. Yeah, the whole idea is to reconnect to the center, and the core of the center, like I said so many times, is your intuition. And intuition is creative. And intuition, like your intuitive mind, like religion, like mythology, all this is intuitive mind. All the earliest paintings are communicated. Soul communicates through art, through its symbols. It has its own language. It communicates, for instance, in the tarot. All these symbols in the tarot, the 21 major arcana and the minor arcana, the archetypes in the major arcana, the tower, the wall, the magician, the high priestess, all these are archetypes. So it's like, if you're using the tarot, the major arcana, you can think of it as the inner life. Your inner life, your inner connection, the tree that you're climbing. Every branch is one archetype. There's your magician, there's your fool, there's your magician, there's the empress, emperor, the tower. The world card is at the apex. That's the center. And what's in the center of the world card? The feminine. There's not God the Father there sitting on a cloud with his beard. There's a woman. She's at the center. And that's one of the oldest mystical realizations. The feminine is the center, and the feminine is intuition, your intuitive center. That's the soul. Okay, so I'll continue. I'll finish off this little article. Of course, there are also those who've never lost their intuitive connection. These are the outsiders, the misfits, the mad individuals who, like sages of old, never gave in to society's values of divisiveness and fighting for local resources, and moved through life not as particular race, but as residents of our living country Earth, the living universe. As light as a feather, move wherever the wind of spirit might flow them. Are very few people like that, to be quite honest. Very, very few. I've traveled a bit around the world. I've lived in many cities, and I've been doing this, you could say, my whole life. I'm born and intuitive, and I have not met many people like that. Most are just society, because society gives you security. I'll probably make a video of the second birth, or being reborn out of society into your own inner life of instructions from within. So this is, your first birth is your physical birth. That is the birth into society. Your second birth is being born out of society, the instructions of society for you, to the instructions for you from within. This is your adulthood. You're still in childhood if you're stuck in society and it's providing for you security. If you are reborn out of that and you have your own instructions from within, you begin your real adulthood. I will make a video about that. Maybe in my next video might be like that. So for this video, society kills our creativity. It kills the creativity because it only emphasizes the rational side, the scientific side, the deductive side. You're not allowed to use intuition because intuition is irrational. There's no proof that it exists. There's no proof that you can find the right answers. You're not allowed to talk about what your dreams have revealed to you, or your visions. Otherwise, you're mad. People have been murdered for less than this, in Europe and America for 5 centuries. 5 centuries. Not only women, mostly women, because women are closer to nature, to the earth religion of nature, which is intuitive. They're much closer to it. But also men. Giordano Bruno was killed for that. Jesus. Al-Halaj, the mystic, who said, that I am God and so is everybody else, and he was crucified. So did Jesus for the same thing. There are many that were murdered, just because they said they went completely against the narrative of society. They were born out of society already. They didn't need its instructions. They had the instructions from within, and they were sharing those instructions. They wanted to help others. To help them to get out. These days, you're not physically dragged out to a square somewhere in central square in town, and tied to a stake and lit a fire, and there's your soul is purified. You've been murdered in that way, but you're cancelled. You're cancelled. If I can see in my own work, even to this day, I've written so much about it, trying to explain, but you can't explain to people that the consciousness between you and them is a universe, several galaxies. You can't. They're stuck in their narrative, what they believe, and no matter how politely or gently or how well you explain, it's not going to change their mind, and they still keep going on about the same thing on and on and on and on. No, you just, but these people are dangerous too, because they will flag your, for instance, posts on Facebook and so on as false information or this or the other, and you're going to get cancelled. The attention falls on you, more people pile up, and I've seen it in my own work. People, there are really nasty people out there that want you to fail because it goes against what they believe. And if one of the reasons that they behave in this way is because the whole world is built on for instance, religious belief or Christian belief, for instance. Or what you see now in the Middle East, in Palestine, on the Jewish belief. And you can't change that because the whole world crumbles. It just says that their whole life was a lie if they realize that it's not true. That, for instance, that they're not chosen people, that everyone is a chosen race, that there's not just one God the Father, just the wrong God that loves them, but actually there is, everyone is a God. You can't even begin to change that mindset, because they would have to admit that the whole life is built on a lie, and they're never going to do that. So it's easier to destroy you. So creativity is important. It's it's very important. When it happens spontaneously, and you might not understand. Let me have a look. All right, I got to finish. You might not know what it means. Don't worry about it. Just keep going, and one day when you do some research to the symbolic meaning of the colors, it will pop. It will just, you will realize, you will know what's going on. Okay? So that's all I wanted to talk to you today, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.